Hi, I'm Alex with Simple DSLR. Just wanted to make this quick video to show you how you get these blurry backgrounds in your photographs. This also works for video. So let me show you how this is done. Getting that blurry background in your portrait images can be easily achieved within your camera by changing the aperture settings around. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video. So you can get this effect versus this effect. By the way, the technical definition of this phenomena is bokeh. You should also be aware that the pronunciation of this term is very highly debated on the internet. And it's a Japanese term, so don't hold it against me if I pronounced it wrong. Now, this is not a tutorial on how to do this with Photoshop or some kind of image editor. While you can achieve that with an image editor, it's really no substitute for doing it directly with your camera, the natural, organic, optical way of doing this. With an image editor, it really just involves on separating your subject and cutting it and pasting it out. So separating your image in two layers and then applying some kind of blurry filter to one of the layers and then placing the subject on top of that blurry layer. And in my opinion, it doesn't really come out the right way and how it's supposed to look. So here's how it's done with your camera. Okay, so when you focus your camera on your subject, it focuses at a certain distance away from the camera. So things in your image that are closer to you and in front of your subject are not as sharp as your subject because they're out of focus. And things that are behind your subject and further away from you are also out of focus because they are not in that focus area and they don't appear sharp. And that area, that focus area where objects appear sharp is called depth of field. And you can control the size of that depth of field area with your camera settings. One of the main things that controls that is your aperture. The aperture is that iris that sits inside the lens that opens and closes when you're taking pictures. So when you put your camera into aperture priority mode, AV for Canons and A for Nikons, what you're doing is taking manual control over your aperture and letting the camera decide everything else automatically. So your aperture controls the size of that depth of field area. These aperture values are called f numbers or f-stop numbers. So dialing in small aperture numbers will mean that your camera's iris will be open at its widest, and doing that you'll have a shallow depth of field, a small area that's in focus. But now if you increase your f numbers, dialing them up, you're going to decrease the size of the iris, and in doing so you will widen the area that's in focus. You'll get a deeper depth of field. So essentially that's what you're doing when you're getting these blurry background in these pictures. You have your subject in that focus area in your depth of field area, while your background is out of that area and therefore coming out blurry. So here's a quick example. I'm going to take this picture at a high f-stop number. If I do that, you'll see that the background is reasonably in focus. But if I lower my f-stop number, that'll give me a shallower depth of field, a smaller area that's in focus. And if I take the picture like that, you'll see that the background is blown out and is blurry because it's out of focus and it's out of that depth of field area. In addition to the aperture settings, some other variables that you can control in order to control the size of the depth of field area are the distance that your subject is away from your camera. So for example, if you have your subject and you take them out at a further distance away from your camera and you focus on your subject at that distance further away, your depth of field area increases. So you'll have less of an effect of a blurred background if your background is closer to your subject. And another variable that you can control is your zoom factor, or rather your focal length. By controlling that, you can also control the size of your depth of field area. If you zoom in more, your depth of field area decreases, it gets smaller. So depending on your situation, by playing with these variables, you can control how blurred your background is. First, start off with your aperture setting, play around with the distance away from the camera, and your focal length, and then you'll achieve these blurred backgrounds. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope this has helped you. If you liked this video and it was informative for you, please check out my website, simpledslr.com. There's a link to it in the description of this video. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the exact page where there's more videos like this, organized all in one place, so you don't have to hunt around all over the internet to get information like this. Thank you, and hope to see you there.